Okay, wrapping up this week, we're going to do the second day of 12.4, talking about box and whisker plots. You don't need to write these words, but that's why I have those parentheses, but I need you to write or jot down a picture of a box and whisker plot, and so that we can label it and give you what you need to understand about that. Here's what box and whisker plot looks like. It has the actual box, and the shape isn't always going to be what it is, but it's going to be some sort of a mark here, and it's going to have what we call whiskers here, one number out there, one number out there. Now, each of these marks represents something that is easy to find, or hopefully as of yesterday is easy to find. This is the minimum number. So whatever the smallest number is will go right there. This represents, of course, the maximum number. And so again, that's what's going to go there. This, if you look at it, is your median, which of course should let you understand that if that's the median, then this would be my first quartile and my third quartile. So again, we worked yesterday on finding the median, the first quartile, the third quartile. I don't think it's hard to find the minimum. I don't think it's hard to find the maximum, but that is what a graph of a box and whisker plot looks like. Okay, the box portion, which is this part, represents what we call the interquartile range. So you do want to kind of write that or label it as the interquartile range. I guess the way you could do that is kind of put an IQ range here and kind of put arrows from here to here and from here to here. That way you understand. Again, if they say what is the interquartile range, you would say from blah to blah, and that would give you what you needed there. Okay, so again, box and whisker plot has that form. That's what you're going to follow. That's what you're going to use. Alright, so looking at problem 1, where they want you to create a box and whisker plot for the data, everything kind of stacks on itself. Of course, the first thing we have to do is put these numbers in order, and so we go through and say 75 is the smallest number, then 80, then looks like 125, then 126, then 135, then 140, another 140, and 350, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, there is my data in order. So then you go through and you find the median. So we go this to that, this to that, this to that. We have two middles, which means that my median is the middle. Remember that means that I do not count or take off a number from my first and third quartile because my median is actually at the line. But remember, the way we find that number is we do 126 plus 135 equals, and then divide by 2, and that number should be in between those two, which 130.5 is between the two. So 130.5 is my median. I don't need to label it because I know that's my median. Now I go and find my first quartile. So again, what I do there is I cover up to the line, and I notice that 75 goes with 126, and that this represents another spot where my first quartile is going to be. So looking at that, I do 80 plus 125 equals divided by 2, and then that should give me a number between those two, which 102.5 is about right. That's about 20 away from everything. So 102.5 is there. And then you cover up the line for the other side and find out that it is going to be between these two numbers where your median is. And of course, the number in between 140 and 140 is obviously 140, but just to verify that, 140 plus 140 equals divided by 2 gives me 140. So this represents my first quartile, my median, and my third quartile. And so when you go to create a box and whisker plot, you have to create a graph. Looking like we're going from 75 to 350, I guess what I will do is count by 50s. 50, 100, 52. I guess we'll count by 50. So 50 here, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350. So as long as you're counting by the same thing, that's fine. You just need to make sure your graph has the range of everything in it. And again, my smallest number is about 75, my highest number is 350, so this catches everything. And everything else is kind of like an approximation. So 75 we know as your minimum, because remember we start with the minimum, is the lowest point. So what I would do is just put a mark or a line where 75 would be. and I would label that as 75. And then I go to my first quartile, which is about 102.5. Well, that's 100. 102 should be just slightly past that. So put another little mark right there and label it as 102.5. Your median is at 130.5, so if that's 150, then that means that this would be 125. 130 should be somewhere around here. And your third quartile is at 140, so 140 being pretty close to 150 should be about right here. And then of course your maximum is 350, which is really way off to the side. Now you remember the whiskers come from the outside numbers, and that your box is from these numbers. So this would be your box and whisker plot for that information. The reason you like the box and whisker plot is because you notice that most of the data is in between 102.5 and 130.5, and then you have what you call an outlier at 350. An outlier, as a word, an outlier just means it's something that stands out. And obviously if you look at the graph, 75 isn't too far from everything, but 350 is way out here to the side, and it looks like it doesn't even belong with this data. An outlier would be a classroom full of kids where everybody gets an 80, a 91, a 75, a 86, a 92, and a 2%. This 2% would be your outlier because these people kind of followed a certain pattern, and that person just completely went against what you're used to. So again, an outlier is just something that's outside of what you would typically expect, but that is your box and whisker plot. So again, minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, maximum, whiskers on the outside numbers, box on the inside numbers. Your inner quartile range is right here from 102.5 to 130.5, and that is it. Alright. One more box and whisker plot before we look at how we apply this stuff or how we're going to use it on the test. Again, they want another box and whisker plot, so again we have to put everything in order. Looks like my lowest number is 303, then 307, 311, 312, 314, 1, 2, 3 times, 315 once, looks like 316 twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm missing something. I'm missing 321. That's why I always check. So 321 also is over there. Again, in this situation, we go this with that one, 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 and our median is 314. Now remember again, because this number is part of that, that we do not use that number in our lower half. So we cover it up because it's an actual number, and we have these two matched up, which means my median here is, or my first quartile here is 311. Again, cover that up and look at these. Those two match up, which means that my other number is going to be, my third quartile is 316. So we go to make our graph. Again, the graph should be big enough to kind of get what you need out of it. And notice that my numbers are going from 303 to 321. I guess we could actually just go ahead and label this from 300 to 321, because that should be fine. So 300, 301, 302, 303, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Looks like I'm going to run out of room. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Just enough room. So 300 here. And I'll just label every 5. 300, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then of course we know that 321 is over there. Notice you don't need to label them all, but just kind of give the reader something that kind of gives them an idea of where the numbers are. Your lowest number is at 303. This is your minimum number, so 300, 1, 2, 3. So put a little mark right there for your 303. Your first quartile is at 311, which is right here. 310's there. 311 would be somewhere around here. Your median is at 314, which is right here. Your third quartile is at 316, which if that's 315, this should be 316, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 321 is my max. Again, your whiskers go to your outside numbers, and the box is created by those numbers there. I don't need to label these numbers because these are really not complete estimates, whereas on the other one, this was counting by 50s. I don't really know what that number is, so it kind of helps to say it's about 75 and label those numbers to help. But on this one, I know for a fact that if this is 300, 305, that the reader can say 301, 302, 303, 310, 311, 12, 13, 14 here, 15, 16 here, 320, 321 there. But again, that would be your box and whisker plot. This would be your interquartile range, your median, and if you want to point out an outlier, I guess it would be way over here at 303, because based off of where most of the information is, this is way off to the side. But there's not always an outlier. It doesn't make it an outlier. It just means that it's kind of further from the data than that maximum number is. Other than that, let's look at one more question in terms of how you will use box and whisker plots. And it says, use the box and whisker plot to answer each question. It says, which one has a smaller interquartile range? It's talking about the average monthly rainfall in inches. Miami, Florida, here's your box and whisker. New Orleans, Louisiana, here's your box and whisker. The interquartile range, remember, is this part here. Which one has a smaller range would be New Orleans. It says estimate the third quartile of Miami's rainfall. So you go to Miami's rainfall, you recognize that this is your minimum, your first, second, third, and then the maximum, so that's your third quartile there. Third quartile of Miami's rainfall seems to be about, if this is 7 and 7.5, I'd say that's about 7.25 inches of rain. Then the last question says estimate the first quartile of New Orleans rainfall. So again, go to New Orleans. First quartile is always here. The first quartile, if you look at it, is right around here. And so if that's 4.75, I'm sorry, that's 4.5. This would be about 4.75. I would get this about 4.9 inches. So again, that's pretty much where this is going. You're going to be getting pictures of box and whisker plots. You have to understand maximum, first quartile, median, second or third quartile, and maximum, and know how to use that information to get your questions answered. Other than that, go to MathXL and work on that sheet, or work on that information. After you're done with that, put your computers up and get the sheet that should be on the computer's cart and begin working on that. Good luck, and again, if there's any questions, please make sure you ask me about whatever it is you're having troubles with. Again, make sure you remember that your grade is based off of your MathXL percentage. So if your MathXL percentage is low, you need to make sure you're going back and making up some of those scores so that your grade doesn't drop